Running a small business means I wear lots of hats. When I put on my hiring hat, I can count on LinkedIn Hiring Pro to make it easy. LinkedIn Hiring Pro helps manage my hiring workflow, puts my job post in front of a unique network of professionals, and matches me with the best candidates for my business. I can also share my job with my network. No other job site lets me do that. No wonder most small businesses say they'd use LinkedIn Hiring Pro again. Hire right the first time. Post your job for free on LinkedIn today at linkedin.com/quality.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
This is the Weekend Check-In from the Modern Taoist with Kip Man. Join the absolutely free Modern Taoist community on Patreon at patreon.com/themoderntaoist. And now, Kip Man.
Hey, hello, and welcome to the Weekend Check-In of the Modern Taoist. I hope you are having a good day wherever you might be, however you might be listening today. If you are on Spotify, make sure you follow us on Spotify. I'm going to have to tell you that every time now. I was scolded. It's amazing how when you start doing something like this and you get up over into the thousands of listeners, how the expectation is a word that I do not like and I try not to participate in. But the expectation of others for you to do certain things begins to take a hold and take shape. And you know, it is what it is. We do what we have to do. And we like the fact that I made a mistake of thinking that it was a vanity thing, that the number of followers was simply a vanity thing, and I really didn't care. What I did not grasp properly, I knew it logically, but I didn't grasp properly, was that the more people that click the follow button, the easier it is to find us and be available to people that may be looking for some Taoist guidance and wisdom and, you know, some interaction and some community that you guys experience right now. And I want more people to have access. So if you are on Patreon, thank you for that. If you haven't been to Patreon yet, it's absolutely free. It's patreon.com/themoderntaoist. There's a little community building over there if you're looking for other people to communicate with and chat with. And I pop in there 2 or 3 times a week to say hello and give you guys I'll give you a piece of my mind is what I'll do. The weekend check-in this weekend comes from a question that popped up. And it led me down a little bit of a road. And I said, you know what, before I go down this road, let's just go ahead and talk to everybody about it. Let everybody have a chance in this. Because most conversations about Taoism stay at the level of idea, right? The water metaphor, the value of stillness, the wisdom of Wu Wei and not forcing. And people find these things, they resonate, they go, yeah, I get it. And then they walk back into their lives and do exactly what they were doing before because nobody told them what any of it actually looks like on a Tuesday morning, right? And that's what we always have been trying to do. That's why we did the podcast or started it. And this check-in is about that. Not about the philosophy, but about the practice. What a person living in the Taoist tradition actually does in an ordinary day. Not as a rigid routine or a system or anything like that, but 3 things that we return to over and over and over, regardless of how our day is going. None of these things are exotic. They don't require meditation cushions or taking an hour of your life or anything like that. It's 3 things that are available to you and that a Taoist does basically every day. I believe the mistake people make when they start taking Taoism seriously is looking for a Taoist version of a routine. They're looking for a sequence of practices that produce a specific internal state. Now, a lot of that is because people confuse Taoism with Buddhism all the time, and I get that because Buddhism does have a specific sequence of things that will produce a certain state. Morning routines here are not the problem, right? The problem is what happens to the people that are practicing the morning routines, or what happens to the routines themselves. They become the thing being maintained rather than the thing that was supposed to support your life. So if you have to force a system of practices, then that itself becomes a forced endeavor. The system replaces the practice. The routine becomes the point, and the point then gets lost. You see what I'm saying? What a Taoist does every day is not a sequence of specific things. It is a returning, which we've talked about many times, again and again, to small moments throughout the day. And we return to basically the same three things. The three things that Taoist tradition considers foundational. And it's not because somebody tells us to do it, but because they are what a person who has genuinely absorbed this way of moving through the world tends to reach for when they lose the light on the path. The first one of these things that we return to often is stillness. And I don't mean stillness as a scheduled block of time or a practice that requires you to pause and sit and cooperate with anything, but as a return to quiet in the gaps that the day already provides, before responding to the message that activates you, before walking into a conversation that has been building all week, in the moment between finishing one thing and starting the next. All of these little spaces are available for you to simply shut down, be quiet. Before the momentum of the day pulls you from one thing to the next, there is always a gap. The Taoist relationship with stillness is not about achieving a specific state of mind. It is the recognition that the clearest view of any situation available to you comes from the quietest place. And the quietest place is always closer than you think. Even if what is available is only a breath, only a moment, only that small gap, the Taoist person returns to that throughout the day, whenever it becomes available. And while doing that, we are changing the quality of what comes after. The quality of our decisions and our responses. If they come from stillness, they are better than ones that come from reaction, which we talked about in the last episode. The gap is the practice, not the silence itself, the returning. The second thing we do on a daily basis is observe. Observation before interpretation. The Tao Te Ching describes the sage as someone who watches without manipulating, who understands without imposing that understanding. And in daily life, this is the habit of looking at what is actually happening before we decide what it means. And now that sounds easy, but it turns out that's one of the hardest things to put into practice on a daily basis, because your mind does not naturally do observation and interpretation as two different things. It does them simultaneously, right? And the interpretation is almost always faster than the observation, which is weird, but it is. So it means by the time that the looking is finished, the meaning has already been attached. And the Taoist learns and is learning and has learned how to separate those and flip the order. The observation first. So somebody has a conversation that feels like they were dissing us or slighting us in some way. Is that what they were doing, really? Let's think about that for a minute. The thing that a colleague did that read as a power move, were they doing it to get to you, or were they doing it for themselves? Right? We're always looking for the observation first, the interpretation later. The Taoist habit of separating these two steps does not produce naivete, okay? It produces accuracy. Because our responses are responses and not reactions. Just what I said a minute ago about stillness. Observation produces the same thing. If you combine observation and stillness, you are responding in a much clearer way. This is harder on days when the emotional weather is bad. I'm not going to lie. When something has already activated your system, that interpretation starts running faster and hotter. So then the stillness comes into play. Stillness and observation are the first two things. The third thing is allowing the energy that is available to guide the day rather than forcing the energy that isn't. This is Wu Wei as a daily practice. Wu Wei is not a philosophy. It is a daily practice. Some hours in the day have flow in them. You think clearly, you work easily, the conversations you have produce something. And when that's happening, that deserves your full 100% engagement. We can mistake not spending that time on those things, right? And sometimes we try to force things that could wait. The other hours, the ones where the thinking is stalled and the work is not moving and you're starting to get tired and the problem that seems solvable this morning is suddenly kind of opaque. The Taoist response in those hours is not to push harder against the resistance, because the resistance pushed against tends to produce more resistance. So set it down, step away, move on to something else. Let the blocked thing sit there without additional pressure. This is not avoiding hard work. Hard work is applied in the direction that the flow produces. Understand that your day has currents in them. We've talked about it before. The Taoist learns to feel them and move accordingly. So we have three things: the return to stillness, observation without interpretation, and following the flow of what energy is available to us. This is a direction for you to face. This is not a map. It is a compass. Because all of these do not happen every day. We want them to, but sometimes they don't. And they don't happen perfectly when they do happen. They sometimes get lost to the speed of the day, to the activation of emotional systems. These things happen. Coming back again and again to stillness, stillness, observation without interpretation, and accepted energy. These are the things that you come back to. That is the practice. So this weekend, take one of the three into one ordinary situation. Not as a spiritual practice, but as a genuine attempt to see what happens when you begin to change your orientation. Find one moment before you respond to something and return to stillness first. Even if it's just the length of 10 seconds. Find one situation where you look to interpret it and just observe. Stay with it. Let it be what it's going to be. Find one place where you push against something and set that down and move on to something else instead. Redirect your effort to where the energy is actually moving. Do that this weekend. The practice of Taoism does not live in concept. We're not talking about spirituality. We're talking about real life. Taoism lives in real life, in the moments before the reply, the moment before the conclusion, the moment before the forcing. Practice that this weekend. Follow the show so you don't miss the full Tuesday episodes of the Modern Taoist. And if this one landed with you, please send it to someone that's been reading about Taoism and wondering, what does it actually look like in the day-to-day? And I will see you next Tuesday.
Thanks for joining this weekend check-in from the Modern Taoist with Kip Man. Like, follow, and subscribe on this platform for new episodes every Tuesday. And join the free Patreon community at patreon.com/themoderntaoist or visit us online at daoananda.com.